New England Patriots. Let's start with the Patriots. What are your thoughts on what New England's done? They've spent a ton of money, added a lot of players. Do you think have they gotten better, Sam?
Yeah, well, any of these things, when you bring in a ton of guys, theoretically, you should be getting better. Like, it's unlikely that the net of a bunch of players that you add in is going to be a negative one, because, one or two might not work out. But theoretically, if you just add a bunch of bodies, they're supposed to all be upgrades. Even if you're wrong on a couple of them, the net should be still positive. So, yeah, I think they've gotten better. Milton Williams, obviously the kind of jewel of that group, an impact pass rusher, the highest PFF pass rushing grade of any defensive tackle last season. Now, I think that will come down. I don't think he is the best interior pass rusher in the NFL. Obviously, he benefited from being on a defensive line next to Jalen Carter, with all those talented pass rushers there. Now he's going to have to be the guy. So that will, I think, affect his efficiency and affect his production. But he should still be a really good addition for them. Carlton Davis might be the next one that I think has the biggest impact. Davis is a good cornerback. Like, that's a capable starter that you're bringing in. I don't love the Harold Landry move. I think that's an overpay. I think this is kind of a legacy thing. Mike Vrabel coached Harold Landry back in Tennessee. He played a lot of snaps in Tennessee. He was productive in certain ways, but I think he's always been a relatively inefficient pass rusher who's gotten by on volume and a kind of skewed sack rate. But I don't know how much he's upgrading that unit. But yeah, like, they've added some interesting players, a couple of which I think will make a real impact for them.
They added Morgan Moses, who I mentioned. Yeah, I like what New England's done because they had money to spend. And I know we've talked about, hey, a lot of this was on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't think the free agent results are always a perfect indication of strategy. I don't think New England went in and said, we have to take care of the defense over the offense. The reports were that they offered over $30 million to Chris Godwin at wide receiver. They understand the desperation of the wide receiver need. I think they've been in on every single receiver that's been out there. They just haven't either been chosen when it comes to Chris Godwin or given up enough or whatever it might be. So there's still work to do on the offensive side of the ball. But as we've talked about before, I think this defense overachieved a little bit under Bill Belichick in 2023. Last year, regressed even more without Belichick. And as bad as the offensive line was and the pass catchers, like, the defense was almost as bad. So the fact that I think Carlton Davis pairing him with Christian Gonzalez can have a huge effect on this defense. And I'm with you on, Milton Williams. Is he the best pass rusher in the NFL? I don't think so. And you had to overpay for him. That's a lot of money, $26 million for Milton Williams, but he's still young, and you got better on the defensive line. Landry's an okay starter, still more work to do there. Like the secondary move, Robert Spillane, fine as a starting linebacker. Morgan Moses, the first piece, I think, of rebuilding that offensive line. It's not a long-term play, but it's at least, hey, we've got one spot down. Onwenu's probably two spots. So let's say two and a half to three more spots to take care of on the offensive line. So I think they're moving in the right direction. And when you have that much money to spend, you should be able to add at least a few impact players. And I think they did that.
But this is it's an interesting discussion for New England, because I think you're right? You can only judge the results, but the results do not necessarily indicate what they were trying to do and weren't able to get done, right? They simply indicate what they were able to get over the line. So for New England, just because they brought in a bunch of defenders, pre-free agency, or New England strategy needs to be offensive line and wide receivers, right? Basically nothing else. Forget, those are your focuses, because you have Drake May, who looks really good, and you have nothing around him. So obviously your first strategy needs to be, let's give him help on the offensive line and receiver. As you said, they were in on Chris Godwin, couldn't get it over the line. Who knows who else they were in those two position groups and couldn't get over the line. So on the one hand, you're sort of like, well, we shouldn't judge them harshly for not being able to get that done. On the other hand, they had the most cap space in the NFL to play with going into free agency. And Milton Williams in particular, the reports are that they gazumped Carolina because they were willing to go to a place. The report was something like they just would not be denied, right? Like, Carolina thought they had a deal done. New England came back with more money and then just kept hammering until Milton Williams is like, well, I can't. I mean, decision made. Like, I can't turn down this. The Patriots are literally going to go to whatever the number is to get this deal over the line. My question would be, if they could do that for Milton Williams, why couldn't they get that done for what is a more acute need in either offensive tackle or wide receiver? Like, if that, if they were prepared to use that war chest, the salary cap space that they had to play with for the defensive tackle, why couldn't they get one of these other deals over the line by just keep going until somebody says yes?
I mean, my answer would be Milton Williams. Okay, maybe he's not Chris Jones year in, year out, but we're talking about a top 3 or 4 interior pass rusher in the NFL, or has the opportunity to be that going forward. You're comparing that to the left tackles available, to Dan Moore, to Jalen Moore, to Cam Robinson. Washington had to give up, multiple draft picks just to get creative, to get a Laramie Tunsil. So if you're going to overspend, I mean, like, Sam, if they were like, we won't be denied, we need Dan Moore, we're going $22 million. Sorry, Tennessee. We'd be sitting here criticizing New England for overpaying Dan Moore. That would be insane. Where they still have it pick 4. Like, if they pick Will Campbell, I'm fine with Will Campbell as the pick at number 4. If they trade down and still get Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks, and he's their starting left tackle, then you're one second wave left guard free agent move away from creep back toward average is in the range of possibilities here for New England's offensive line. I'm glad that they spent the money on a Milton Williams versus a Dan Moore or someone else at left tackle, or Cam Robinson. I think
there are times where the need is so acute that I'm kind of okay with an overpay. Like, this is why part of the reason I don't think the Tennessee move for Dan Moore is that good or bad is because I don't think their need was that acute that they needed to go throw the bag at Dan Moore Jr. to get it done.
Though, because of right tackle. Because the right tackle situation in Tennessee is as bad as New England's left tackle situation. It's just as bad.
But you needed a tackle. You didn't need, like, the Patriots need an upgrade of basically the entire offensive line. Tennessee just has a problem spot at right tackle, and we're not even sure Latham fixes it. Like, Latham's just used to play right tackle in college, so we're assuming he might be better there than he was in his first year in the NFL on the other side. Like, it's a nice fit in that it allows them to move Latham back there and theoretically upgrade both spots, but we're not sure that's going to be the case. Point being, I don't think Tennessee had this, like, man, this entire unit needs to be overhauled at the risk of ruining our quarterback, which is by far the most important thing. Tennessee doesn't have a quarterback, so it doesn't matter if they ruin the guy, because who cares? It's Will Levis. He's already ruined. Will Levis, in his default position, is a meme quarterback. So if we don't fix the left tackle spot and he gets murdered next year because we're like a turnstile at left tackle, who cares? It's not the guy anyway.
I mean, I think that was the right place to overpay Milton Williams. Still work to do. Still work to do on the offensive side of the ball.
But the other thing is, it also changes. Like, Cam Robinson is still available, and Cam Robinson is a perfectly serviceable left tackle, as he showed last season in Minnesota. He's not great, but he's fine, right? If they end up, like today, free agency actually starts, if they end up snagging Cam Robinson for a modest deal, that's great. Like, that completely changes everything. Like, suddenly you've got your left tackle. You didn't have to overpay for Dan Moore or Jalen Moore or whoever. You end up getting a better player than probably either of those guys for whatever that sum is. And you got Milton Williams because you wouldn't be denied.
Yeah, I think left tackle and left guard still to be done. Also, a lot of rumors around Cooper Kupp potentially going to New England after he gets released officially by the Rams. I've pegged Cooper Kupp in New England as a really good fit throughout this entire process. I liked Kupp either going to Washington before the Debo deal or New England, right? You got the rookie contract quarterback. I think Kupp would be a great fit for Drake May. Still more work to do. He'd be one piece, right? So that's just where they are. They're not going to solve everything in 2 days, but I think they certainly moved in the right direction there. Anything else on the Patriots?
No, other than, still, as you say, still work to be done. They haven't really upgraded the 2 biggest positions of need they need.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.